These are the top 5 easily modded budget mechanical keyboards. If at any point during the video you want to check out any of these 5 different keyboards, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. I do got you guys. But let's jump into the number 5 spot. And that is the Redragon K630. Now, this is actually a really awesome keyboard and it's quite easy to just get and mod right away. Now, I know you got a few questions because if you know the K630, you're gonna think, okay, well, this is a cool keyboard. However, it is not fully hot swappable, and that is true. But this is a little loophole that not a ton of people know about, is there's a few switches that will actually fit inside of Autemu hot swap only keyboards. So this can only be hot swapped with Autemu switches, or that's what they say online. However, this keyboard can actually be hot swapped with Akko CS switches or Holy Panda switches. So there's actually a few other switches, but the Akko switches are a fairly budget switch that are so much better than Autemu's. And there's like 10 different switch options that you can hot swap into this keyboard, the Redragon K630. Now, the reason I chose this is because number 1, the stabilizers right off the bat. Let's take a little listen right now. They aren't incredible, but they are quite good. And this is all stock. I have not modded the stabilizers at all. So if all you want to do is just throw some different switches on here, this thing can be easily modded that way. But there's a few other things that make this really easy modding. So one of the things that I don't like is actually on the left side here. That is where the USB-C port is. I wish that it was kind of on the back instead of on the side. However, you can buy a 90-degree USB-C flipper. That's not a big deal. However, this does have a metal deck and the sound stock is pretty good, although it's a little bit hollow. This one, as you can see, is slightly modded. I put some sound dampening on the inside of this. I upgraded the switches to the Akko CS Matcha Greens, and then I put some PBT keycaps on the top here. A pretty budget build and very like stock looking. It's very clean. I like it, and it sounds quite nice. Now, for a price of only 55 bucks, you get a 60% keyboard, you get a top metal deck, you only get hot swappability with Akko CS switches, Holy Pandas, and a few other switches. However, in stock form, the stabilizers are really good and the build quality is quite good with a single plastic shell for the base. And that's why it's on the list, because in stock form, it's really good. And to mod it, you don't have to do a ton of stuff. The stabilizers already sound pretty good. You can mod them a little bit. But on some of the other options where they have full hot swappability and they're super budget friendly, however, those stabilizers do need a little bit more work. But moving on to the number 4 spot, this is the Royal Kludge RK61. As you can see, this one has been modded. However, it has only been very slightly modded with some keycaps. Otherwise, this is a completely stock keyboard. And these were actually modded with some pretty cheap, very budget-friendly keycaps. So let's go over it. So obviously this is a 60% keyboard. The good thing with this, like the K630, is that all of these keys right here, these are all the same with basically any keycap set. So you can get a keycap set for a full-size keyboard and put the keycaps on here. So it's very easy to get different keycaps for this. Now, this is again a single plastic shell for the base. This does have Bluetooth connectivity, which is very cool. This one I have is the all static version. However, there is an RGB version, which is the one that you guys should buy. And it is fully hot swappable with 3 and 5 pin switches, which means you don't just have to do Akko CS switches, although they're great and I do highly recommend them, but you can do tangerines, you can do whatever you want. Put them in this keyboard, and that is really cool. That's a huge selling factor, and for a price of only 53 bucks, so actually less than the Redragon keyboard. However, let's go over why that is. Number 1, again, fully stock keyboard. So it's definitely good, and if you did some mods to it, it would be absolutely amazing. Do a holy mod to it, maybe re-lube it. This thing could sound really good, even without upgrading the stabilizers. Now, this does have a metal deck, and overall, it's a really budget-friendly way to just go ahead and mod a nice 60% keyboard. You don't have to get any crazy different keycaps. You got your USB-C right there in the middle, so you can get a custom coiled cable. There's one right here. We can just plug it in. Now you can see the one I have here is the static color version. However, that RGB on the other one is any color, perky RGB lighting. So that's awesome. However, again, like I said, this one is Bluetooth, so you can turn this thing on and do it via Bluetooth if you do want to have a more minimal setup. All right, moving on to the number 3 spot. This is the Tecware Phantom 87 coming in at only 46 bucks. This thing is absolutely amazing for the price point, especially if you want to mod a TKL mechanical keyboard. Okay, all right, so going over it, you have the switch options between some reds, browns, and blue switches. This one is a totally stock Tecware Phantom 87 with red switches. This one over here is a slightly modded Tecware Phantom 87 with Akko CS Ocean Blues in it, and it has this, which is actually a shroud for the keyboard that you can buy from Tecware that literally just snaps right on there via magnets. So cool. So this one has some really nice tactile switches on it. This one is totally stock. Let's kind of get a sound comparison between the two. This one only has some custom PBT keycaps and those switches, no other mods. There is, I believe, foam dampening inside of this keyboard. I'm not sure, although it sounds really good, really high quality metal top deck, build quality, unbelievable for the price point. So let's get a sound test of the stock one and then the modded one. Really good stabilizers for stock. Amazing. Wow, really freaking awesome, guys. Okay, so again, obviously I have Akko CS switches on this. This is hot swappable, but it is not hot swappable with 3 and 5 pin switches. This is hot swappable without Temu's only. So again, you can use the Holy Pandas or you can use Akko CS switches, and then there's some other switches out there. But again, guys, under 50 bucks right now as of filming, prices fluctuate. The stabilizers, I mean, that is amazing for a keyboard of this price point. Now, the really cool thing is they give you this shroud. Now you can get it in either white or black, but the cool thing is with this is if you want to paint this, sand it down, paint it, and then throw it on, the cool thing is that it basically completely covers, as you can see with this one, it'll completely cover the keyboard except for those keycaps. So anywhere, even on the sides, as you can see right here, the sides are completely covered with that shroud. So if I lift that up, the shroud completely covers it. So if you wanted to paint this whole keyboard orange and do like an orange theme, maybe a purple theme, whatever you want, if you just bought one of these, I think they're 15 bucks, and then sanded this, painted it purple, put it right on your keyboard, then there is no actual modding. You don't even have to take anything off of your keyboard to now make it purple. You guys know I love shrouds. They're awesome. They're so easy to mod. Besides that, you do have hot swappability without Temu switches, so you can put those Akko CS switches on there. You see right here, I put some very cool YMDK PBT keycaps on there, and I put those switches on here, which I do think are awesome, especially for typing. They're so freaking nice. But the thing with this one is stabilizers are already like really, really good. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that for under 50 bucks in a TKL. I think that's like, you can't get better than that. That's unbelievable. The stabilizers are on point from the factory, so if you didn't want to mess around with stabilizers or you just want to get into modding, but you don't want to have a crappy keyboard to start with, this one as a TKL, unbelievable for the price point. Even in stock form, it's fantastic. But as you can see, this baby is absolutely awesome, just with a few mods to it. All right, but moving on to the number 2 spot, this is the Royal Kludge RK84. These are awesome keyboards. Now I have 2 of them here. These are both totally stock. This one is the brown switch and this one is the red switch variant. So it's just a difference in switches right here. Now these are definitely on the more pricey side of budget, but they're definitely still budget at 80 bucks each. All right, so let's go over this. This has been notoriously one of my most recommended keyboards ever, especially for modding. It is so freaking cool. All right, so it is a 75% form factor, which means you get all of these function keys. You do get some of your multimedia keys, and then you get those arrow keys right there. Now with these, it is a little bit harder to get keycaps because you can see those Alt, FN, Control, and your Shift key right here is gonna be that weirder form factor, but there is a lot of keycaps that you can buy that have the extra ones for 75% or 65% layouts. I know I keep bringing Akko up, but they do such an amazing job with people that are trying to mod budget keyboards or just any keyboard in general. So they actually have some keycaps that have like all the keycaps you're gonna need, all these like Shift and the FN and Alt keys and everything. And those are definitely on the more pricey side of budget, with like being like 55 bucks for the keycaps, so almost as much as the keyboard. All right, but let's go over these keyboards. First of all, they are pretty dang heavy. They do, again, have a skirt, but it comes stock with these things. So they come and they have this little skirt. It's not as big and bulky. This is just a 75% board, so it's not gonna be anything crazy big. It's just there on the edges. However, painting that would make a massive difference to how the keyboard looks. As you can see right there, the bottom of it is definitely in view when the skirt's off, but if not, the skirt covers it. So when you're actually laying it on the desk right here, as you can see, you're only gonna be able to see that skirt and those keycaps. So you could even just paint the skirt and totally change up the look of it. Okay, now going over probably the most important thing with modding. Yes, this is fully hot swappable with 3 and 5 pin switches. It better be for that price. However, you do get to put any switch you want on this. Now, another cool thing is you actually have 3 types of connectivity. You have this USB dongle right here. So if you're gonna do some gaming, this is really good for that if you wanna do it wirelessly, because Bluetooth is not the best for gaming. You then do have Bluetooth, and you switch between Bluetooth and the 2.4 gigahertz USB dongle. Then you can switch it on and switch it off. Now, on the back, you have a USB-C, but the really cool thing is you have 2 powered USB type A's, and that is just so cool. Now, it is on the right side, which is nice because then you can have your coiled cable come over and then kind of, you know, lay across your desk nicely if you do want to mod it with your custom coil cable. I probably would prefer it on the left rather than the right. However, I'm not complaining. It's awesome that it has those powered USBs right there. Okay, now as far as the stabilizers, for 80 bucks, I kind of would like better. However, the big thing with this is it's really, really awesome for modding. This is a great starting point. Yes, you will need to mod your stabilizers. Take a listen. You can see the spacebar definitely needs some work. However, this is a really, really solid starting point for a really amazing build. It's nice and heavy. It's not too hollow, especially in some points over here on the left, it's definitely heavier. I think that's where they have the battery. And then over here on the right, this could definitely use a little bit more foam dampening. However, in stock form, it sounds pretty good. Actually, let me do a sound test of the red switch variant. So yeah, overall, is this thing worth it for 80 bucks? Absolutely, if you're gonna mod it, especially if you want a 75% board. I think this is probably one of the best starting points for a budget build, not a budget build, after you buy this thing and do some modding to it. It's not gonna be budget anymore, but it's probably one of the best 75% keyboards to mod at this price point. I mean, like 80 bucks, full hot swap ability, 3 different types of connectivity, and a pretty heavy board to begin with, and very, very strong build quality. I think it's pretty dang solid for the price. All right, but moving on to the number 1 spot, this is the LTC NB681 Nimbleback. This thing is so freaking awesome. Okay, so putting it right here on the desk, this thing comes in at only 50 bucks as of shooting. That is a really awesome price. Okay, so let's plug this thing in right there. Okay, so right away, the first thing you notice is it's got really good RGB. Obviously, in this room with all this crazy lighting, yeah, it doesn't look like the best, but it's quite bright RGB. Okay, so number 1, this is fully hot swappable with 3 and 5 pin switches. So basically any switch that you want, that is a huge thing. Now, it does have a skirt, which I really like. This is a 65% board. As you can see, this skirt right here looks pretty cool. It has a little Nimbleback right there, but again, spray paint this thing. It would look awesome, super easy, and it covers most of the board. As you can see right here, this is the back side, and you just saw right there, just like the RK84, it's got those USBs, absolutely awesome. You can see right here, it's gonna cover, this is the skirt, it's gonna cover most of that board. So even if you spray paint it, just the skirt, super easy. You're not taking apart your keyboard, and you gotta take everything off of it and then spray paint it, wait for it to dry before you can mod the rest of it. No, you can just take the skirt off, spray paint it, and continue modding your board. And then once you're done, put that thing right back on there. That's so awesome and super easy to do. Now the stabilizers are pretty good. Let's get a sound test. Now that sound test was with brown switches. However, you can see they do need a little bit of work. However, this thing is so easily modded because it's got the skirt. It's nice and heavy. You could definitely put some foam dampening back here. You do have flip up risers, which is nice. And the overall design of it is just really, really solid. I love 65% boards. You have those arrow keys over here. You have a few multimedia keys right here. Now, again, you do have those different shift and alt key right here. So you might have to search around for keycap sets a little bit more than normal. However, I think it's worth it because this thing looks absolutely awesome. And as you can see, it's a solid, like listen to those. Even though they're brown switches, you can hear that it's a very solid keyboard. Starting with something like this that's fully hot swappable is pretty awesome. However, you do need to do some work to those stabilizers, maybe even upgrade them to something like the Durox stabilizers. But guys, for 50 bucks, you get a fully hot swappable 65% keyboard with a removable skirt. This thing is stupid good for the price. It looks awesome stock, I think, and modding it would be so easy with the skirt, with the hot swap ability, with any switch that you want, and having nice and bright RGB. Even with all these tons of lights in the room, you can still see that RGB, which looks absolutely awesome, and having USB-C connectivity with those 2 powered USBs, just like the RK84, which is so cool. Again, if you want to check out any of the 5 keyboards in this video, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. But yeah, any of these keyboards would be great to start easily modding a keyboard and making them awesome and just sound and look freaking awesome. This is a consumer tech review. If you guys enjoyed this video and it helped you out, help me out and throw a like below. And if you enjoy other videos like this, I do a ton of them, so please consider subscribing below. But this was consumer tech review, and I'll see you guys in the next video.